Okay, well, Joe, new season coming up. Last season, a lot of boys that were, getting on in terms of the youth league. So you must have had to go through quite a turbulent off-season in recruitment.
Yeah, it was way different to last year, and it was a conscious effort by Melbourne Heart this year, and everyone involved that we started our process a bit earlier. Last year, I came on board a bit late, and so we couldn't filter through enough of Victoria that we wanted to. This year was a different story altogether. We started quite early and we got to a lot of games. We identified a lot of young kids, and at the end of the day we've settled on our squad. There's still a couple of spots probably vacant, but we'll leave that for the time being. But it's a really exciting group, and so we were probably, yeah, you're probably right, we have turned over a few players, but at the same time I think we're quite happy with the balance that we've got of old and new players.
Can you walk through some of the new signings and tell us about each one?
Yeah, look, there are some players who, Luke O'Day, who was with Melbourne Victory, and we brought him in as a striker because I think there's a lack of really quality strikers at the moment, and I think he's a very good player. Marcus Schroen, he was playing in the Dutch leagues just recently. We brought him in as well. He's actually training for the senior team at the moment. And if we balance those two new guys with just people like Paul Retre, who's in the senior team as well, and training Phil Petreski again with the senior team. So we've got the young kids that have already come up and at the moment are doing really well with the senior team. At the same time, we've brought in some quality players that we've been able to spot. And there's also just a few young kids now. We've brought in a lot of young kids this year because we're looking at it as a 2 or 3 year plan. So there's a lot of young kids like Liam Bryan and Anthony Louse, who was signed by Sunderland not so long ago, Stefan, and the list goes on and on and on. So we're really pleased with what we've been able to manage to get this year.
You touched on two there, in Retre and Petreski. Yep. Who else have you managed to hang on from last season?
Look, it's a squad where, out of last year we've kept Alastair Bray, even though he got injured, because he was probably the best VPL goalkeeper this year until he got injured. And Melbourne Heart is a team that's always looks after their own. And I'll touch on Alastair because he had a great season last year, won the Coaches Award, and this year, even though he'll probably miss most of the season, we did the right thing and kept him on board. He'll be back towards the latter part of the season. Stipo Andrijasevic as well is one of the guys who was injured, and he'll stay on as well. Andy Mullett stayed on as well this year. Paulie Retre, like I said, Marcus Schroen's a new boy, and one of the newer boys that we brought in, Hernan Espindola, he's also an ex-Aussie Joey. It's an exciting group all round, so we're really pleased with the way it's gone about it. The whole balance seems to be really good.
What are your goals and objectives moving on to the season?
Well, a lot of people say that the youth team's there to develop, and that's a primary reason that we're here. We're trying to get these young kids, and we're going to try and teach them the culture of Melbourne Heart first of all. So when we select them, it's not only their footballing ability, but it's also the character that we look at. From that point onwards, yep, we do try and develop them and get them to a better level. At the same time, they have to be taught to win, and I think that's an important part that people sort of tend to just overlook. I mean, if they boys, John Aloisi at any stage, like he did last year, might say, I need 2 players from the youth team. They can't just be young, talented players who will be good. They've got to be ready to help out the senior team straight away. So that's, again, part of the reason why we brought in the players that we did. But again, primary reason is to make them better than what they already are and get them to the level, A-League level. And the second reason is we teach them how to win as best we can.
I guess from club to club, youth systems have different sort of interactions with the senior side. How would you describe the interaction the youth side will have with the senior side this year? We had
a really good concept last year where we all trained out of Latrobe, and the senior team, the youth team was together at every training session. So therefore, there was no player who didn't recognise each other or didn't mingle with the senior players out of the youth team, and that was excellent. You used to see some of the train-ons warming up with Fred last year, for example. And when Sammy Mitchinson and Jeremy Walker and Paulie Retre and Ersin Kaya and Stefan Mauk all got into the senior team during last year, they felt comfortable for that reason alone. And that just helped their transition into the senior team straight away.
And moving back to the squad, yep. You touched on it just briefly before about the amount of players that were promoted to the senior side last year. Do you have a quota? Or
no, and you touched on it as well. What's the goal of the youth team? Obviously, we want to try and promote as many young players into the senior team as we can, and we have a proud record of doing that already over the last 3 years, so we're really happy with the way it's been going. But it's an ongoing process, and if we can keep getting 2 or 3 or 4 players into the senior squad, that's probably the area of success that we look at as a youth team. So if we can do that and we can do it better than last year, then it'll be a successful year. And again, I know I touched on winning, but at the same time, you know, if we have to sacrifice some results for the good of the players, then we'll do that as well.
And just on that, what the style of football that you boys are going to be playing this season?
We'll base ourselves on exactly what the first team does. So whatever John Aloisi does in the first team, we'll do it in the youth team. So I've been with them all pre-season. We know what we want in terms of style of play, in terms of the way we play out of the back and the way we attack. It's always going to be a style that's always as attractive as possible that we can get, you know, and that would probably for us mean a few errors here and there, but you know, we're happy to do that, and if the young boys can learn from those mistakes and get better, then we'll be happy with that as well.
Just moving on to the competition, have you had a chance to maybe look at some of the other competitors this season? Is there any squads that you're impressed with and that you just want to beat this season?
No, it's really tough. You know, we're pretty worried about our own side and the way we structure it up and go about it. And we haven't got a real long time to get the boys together before the first league game. We've basically started yesterday, and we've got about 4.5 weeks before the first game. So we have to worry about the way we get our team up and running before we worry about the other teams. In terms of watching the other teams, yeah, it's different philosophies and different concepts altogether. Some teams might drop 6, 7 senior players down to their youth team and keep their match fitness. We probably do the opposite to that. We promote our young players and give them game time and let them get better in that way. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, you know. Some teams are a bit more experienced than us, and so be it. But you know, it's a good learning curve for our young boys.